Morning, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. I guess the first thing on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. If there's any additions or any comments, we can deal with those. If not, I need a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda.
Moved by Jim,
I'll second.
just second it. All in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does any board member have any pecuniary interest they wanted to declare? Seeing none, that's fine. We'll go on to the minutes. Everyone has had a copy of the minutes, so if there's any questions, we can deal with those now. If not, I need a mover and a second to adopt the minutes.
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes.
Second.
Bill seconds it. All in favor?
Yes.
Carried. Well, we're on to financials. I don't know if Magna's gonna be a few minutes. Okay, good.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question while we're waiting for Magda?
Sure can, Bill. Go ahead.
Super, thanks. Adam, you might have the answer to this. When we're looking at the increases here and we're looking at increases from the 2024 to 2025, are we talking about those new increases being implemented like in September for the 2025-2026 season, not halfway through the season?
Correct. Those get adjusted first to the following ice season.
Okay, thanks.
Good morning, Magna. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I apologize. As always, technical difficulties,
No
especially
problem.
especially when you click on the wrong link.
Yeah, okay. So I guess the floor is yours. We're going to deviate and do the financial report first. So go ahead if you like.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So not too many changes for our financial report for year to date as of October 31st, 2024, typical utilities. The only changes, I would like to mention that donation from Bo Horvath towards arena renaming was received in October, additional $5,000. So pretty much our donations for the arena renaming expenses and arena renaming expenses almost equal zero. So there was a very small deficit that arena board will absorb. As far as expenses, nothing unusual, just typical monthly utility bills that have been processed and no issues with the equipment. And good amount of revenue. We were able to invoice over $35,000 in ice rental revenue for the month of October. So arena is really doing very well. Ice rentals bookings are going well. As a matter of fact, the comparison for year to date 2024 and 2023 was made, and this year's year to date rentals are up 15%. So good for great big thank you to staff and and all the clubs for increasing their programming and making and booking the arena efficiently, so everyone can enjoy and you know, and for from our municipal point of view, minimize the level. We're able to minimize the level of deficit. Does anybody have any questions?
Mostly good news. We don't have to ask too many questions. So I guess if there's no questions, we need a motion to adopt the financial report. I need a mover and a seconder.
I'll make a motion to accept the financials.
Seconded by Bill. All in favor?
Yes.
Carried. Okay, Magna, I guess we're going to move on now to the arena fees and charges, if that's the right order you want to do it in.
That's correct.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for arena fees and charges, as you recall, there was a significant increase that we proposed and the board approved in 2024. I think our ice rental rates are comparable with other municipalities, and this year I am not proposing any significant increases, with the exception of that we have to increase the fees for the cost of inflation. So for this year, for 2025-2026 season, I am proposing an average of 2% increase for fees, and not all the fees. So pretty much ice rental, prime time, off prime time, arena warm room rental, those fees will be going up by an average of 2%. Skate sharpening, I think the $10 rate is comparable with private sectors as well. I'm not planning on increasing these fees. As for public skating, $5 per person, $10 per family. I'm proposing not to change that. Slightly increase on sponsored public skating. The rate is going up by 2% from $130.50 to $133. As for main floor in the summer, once the renovations are complete in the arena, hopefully we can rent that floor in the summer. So again, slight increase of 2% for those rentals. And again, signs, advertising for sign space, not a lot of increase, 2%. You know, we just have to keep up with the inflation so we don't find ourselves like we did, you know, couple years ago, and we had to, you know, propose significant increases to our users. So as long as we keep up with the inflation, I think we should be in a good shape for the next few years. Does anybody have any questions for fees and charges?
No questions. So I guess we need a mover and a seconder to adopt the amended fees as proposed.
I'll make a motion to accept the adopted fees as proposed.
I need a seconder. Bill? All in favor?
Yes.
Carried. Pretty easy so far, Magna. Now we're on to the hard part, the budget.
Oh, we have a question. Excuse me, Mr. Chair. There's a
Go ahead.
question.
Okay. Oh,
Mr. Danny.
no question. Okay. Okay. Go ahead. No, we're good.
I'm good.
Magna, did you want to do the capital forecast first and then go back to the overall budget, or whichever order you want to do it in? Go ahead, you have the floor. So
Okay, so Mr. Chair, I would like to start with operating budget first.
go ahead.
So this is Yep, this is a proposed budget for 2025. As you know, budget is based on the previous year's actual numbers. For 2025 budget, we use 2024 actual year-to-date numbers and forecast, which is indicated in my report. So as for, we're going to go through revenues first. The very first line item on the budget is grant from Dutton Danwich. So this is the share of our projected deficit that Dutton Danwich will be responsible for. This year, for 2025, next year, sorry, we are anticipating approximately total deficit of $177,000. Notably, this year, 55% of all registered users come from Dutton Danwich. So, and that's how the share of deficit is being calculated. It's based on users between West Elgin and Dutton Danwich. As for ice rental, so again, ice rental is based on previous year's bookings. And with 2024 showing 15% increase in bookings over 2023, as you can see, projections for 2025 suggest quite an increase in revenue, and that's my goal. Hopefully we can reach $190,000. But if you look at the previous revenue, how every year the revenue was climbing year over year. So even this year for 2024, as you can see, we're anticipating finishing the year for ice rental revenue of $178,000, which is 31% increase, and it's higher than what we have budgeted. So great, the bookings are 15% higher, as I mentioned to you earlier. A great big thank you to staff. They are efficiently accommodating all the clubs. And again, thank you for the clubs for increasing their programming and helping us to make this deficit reasonable. As for the sign rental, just a slight increase of 2%. So we're not anticipating more than $7,000 in revenue for next year, as well as for public skating. We're thinking with public skating not increasing. However, we're pushing for sponsored skates. That 2% increase, will be in line with 2024 actuals that we project for this year. And then skate sharpening, we're not planning on increasing the fees. I think $1,200 would be reasonable amount of revenue to budget. Does anybody have any questions for revenues before I move on to operating expenses? I see none.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so for the expenses, first line item. So we typically we put $3,000 in our budget for training. So typically, and Adam, please help me out, but based on what I can see, it's the Zamboni and refrigeration training, and plus any additional training that our operators may need and might come up. So this is the cost, annual cost for our operators training. Wages transfer, typically for wages allocation, we budget approximately around 75 to 79% of ice rental revenue. So the higher the revenue, typically the wage allocation goes down. So the more bookings we have, as you know, it's more efficient to run the arena, and the operators cost go down. So that's why that $145,000 represents slightly 75% of ICE rental revenue. As for membership and dues, we have to pay SOCAN license. Basically, there's a requirement in order for us to legally play music in public spaces. We have to have that license. So this is the projected cost of the license. As for health and safety, this is the cost of the green books and any health and safety supplies we may need throughout the year. Uniforms, those are the uniforms that for the arena staff, the gear for the entire year. And then utilities, hydro, we're budgeting $75,000, water, $7,500. Arena, $8,000 for water, and gas, $7,500. It's been quite a warm year. So as you can see, for gas, we're not budgeting as much as we did last year. Hopefully, we don't exceed 2025 budget of $7,500. And then insurance, with natural disasters happening, I am projecting another 13% increase for our insurance. So we're budgeting $50,000. As for building repair and maintenance, we're not anticipating too many repairs, as most of the repairs will be incorporated in our arena renovation project. However, you never know. There's always things that happen. We always put a few bucks on that line item. As for janitorial, this is the cost of janitorial supplies such as paper towels, toilet paper, soap, any kind of cleaning supplies, $1,300. And ground maintenance, basically, this is the account where we capture any kind of work that other departments for the arena are providing some kind of service. So in this situation, there is in 2024, there's $510 allocated to that department. So there was some kind of work that had to be done by Public Works. So what we do, we allocate their time and machine time towards that department. So usually we don't anticipate any issues at the arena, but we always got a small amount of money just to capture that cost. Administration expense is just one lump sum that we transfer at the end of the year to cover municipal staff administrative cost. Contracts and agreements. So this is the only contract that we have is with Jutsi company. They provide water treatment service for the arena. For phone and internet, as the account states, this is just a high-speed internet, cell phones, and landline at the arena. Tools, small tools for small repairs, $250. As for the equipment maintenance, so this is just small repairs that we have to do on Zamboni or arena equipment. For equipment purchase, no plans of purchasing any small equipment unless, but we usually kind of, as you can see, we usually budget $5,000 in case something unusual comes up. As for the equipment rental, that $500 covers the cost of water heater rental at the arena that is paid to Reliance. Small amount for office supplies, and $500 we're budgeting for other supplies beside office supplies, paintbrushes, any kind of things that small items that are required to be purchased for the arena maintenance. And for fuel and gas, so this is the allocation that is being done at the end of the year. All departments have FOB, and they obtain gas from our municipal office. At the end of the year, we allocate the cost of that gas expense to appropriate departments. And again, this is what the board already approved. This $50,000 represents a transfer to reserves for the dehumidification system. As for the transfer from reserves, so basically, 2025 budget is based on the assumption that we will receive the grant money for the arena renovation. So this would be, the project will be split into two phases. Phase one, which will cover that $558,000 transfer from reserves. And then phase two will be, whatever is left for that project will be absorbed in 2026. Two items have been listed, despite the fact whether we receive the grant or not. There is a need for dehumidification system. So not sure when we're going to hear from about the grant. I'm hoping the decision will be made early next year. If we're not successful with the grant application, we are planning on installing dehumidification system next year, right after early spring, in between when the arena is closed. So with that being said, the total expense for the arena for 2025 are projected at $379,000, almost $380,000, and net deficit, that $99,000 that you see on the bottom line is just West Elgin deficit. Total deficit is calculated at $177,000. Does anybody have any questions before I move on to capital?
Yes, I have one quick question. You mentioned that regardless if the grant is received or not, that you're moving forward with the dehumidification system, which is great, but are you also moving forward with the bores repair as well that's listed in that budget?
No, we will not be
Okay.
able to move ahead with the boards due to financial implications.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
We're taking it easy on you today, not too many questions.
Thank you. Okay, so arena, if everybody is satisfied with 2025 operating budget, I would like to go through 10-year capital forecast. So as you know, a grant application was submitted at the end of October. We're not going to hear until early next year whether we are successful or not. However, we do have plans from now until and 10 years from now. And the table in front of you illustrates what works need to be done at the arena within the next 10 years. So number one priority is the humidification system. The approximate cost is $240,000. And we, based on our funds transferred to reserves, we will be able to purchase the dehumidification system next year, regardless of whether we receive the funding or not. We've also submitted our application, and we have included dasher boards, glass benches, replacement of those as equipment inside the arena is aging, and since this grant application came up, we thought, there's a great opportunity to reduce the cost that we would have to absorb. So we incorporated the cost of additional items in the application process. For 2026, we are planning on installing additional 2 dressing rooms. So which means that the entire area where the warm room is will be renovated and will be under construction. The reason why the project is split into 2 years is because we have limited time, and we have to make sure that, we have to make sure that we're not sacrificing our revenue. There's only 6 months for us that we can generate a good amount of revenue, and another 6 months are allowed for the construction. Therefore, the construction is planned between April 1st and August 31st. We're going to try to incorporate other items while the arena is open. However, we are not planning on closing the arena or not having arena available to our clubs during those years. We're planning on replacing skate sharpener in 2026 as well. And then rubber flooring replacement is due and scheduled for 2027, as well as the refrigeration system major maintenance is due in 2027. Once big renovations are completed, there's going to be a lot within the next 10 years. However, once renovations are completed, we will be suggesting annual additional transfer to reserves for the future, replacement or renewal of the arena equipment and the building. On the bottom of my table, as you can see, there is it shows you how the arena construction will be funded. So we have $140,000 for the dehumidification system. Another $50,000 will be transferred this year, and then we're planning another $50,000 transferred in 2025. So we do have sufficient funds for that project. We do have $250,000 from Kraft Hockeyville that will be primarily used for the construction of the washrooms and change rooms. And then we're anticipating around $300,000 grant money once the project starts in 2025, as well as another $367,000 in 2027 for grant portion of the construction cost. Our municipal contribution will be $262,000. And I believe there is, the clubs are planning on raising approximately $10,000. So we're hoping we can fundraise another $10,000. So total funding that we currently have for both years is just a little bit over $1.3 million. And then as for the reserve forecast, we have $140,000 for the dehumidification system and Craftville money. I have to change. I completely forgot the $150,000 that West Elgin Council transferred to arena reserves. So that amount, that opening balance will change to $540,000. I will be revising this table and sending the board revised version of reserve forecast. So we're in good shape. I don't see any concerns not meeting our goal or not being able to do the renovations at the arena. The only concern that I have with all the disasters going on, I am concerned with the cost. Whatever we submitted today may not be the same cost tomorrow. When I talk to our vendors, basically right now, the biggest concern is they cannot quote lumber, and they're shipping lumber to the US to help with that disaster, and it's on total rise. So the material cost is extremely high right now, and it's going up 10% annually. That's all I have for my financial.
Okay, go ahead, Bill, you were first.
Okay, thank you, and through the chair. I'd like to thank you very much. Quite an echo. All right, you go ahead, Jess, and I'll just text my answer or my question.
No, I think it was just someone had their mic on, so I think you're good. It's not echoing anymore.
Okay, thank you. So subject to successful receipt of this grant, what you're saying is that the community fundraising portion of our arena renovations is simply $10,000. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Then that's pretty incredible. So thank you very much. I was thinking we were going to have to run around and raise a whole lot more than that. So amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will. I'll echo that. It sounds like a lot of work has been put into this grant, and it's great to see that there isn't a lot of fundraising. I think it kind of gives some light at the end of the tunnel after so many years, that there isn't a lot of funding to make up. In saying that, last meeting we discussed like putting on the table some additional renovation designs. I think it was Ken that suggested like opening up the whole front versus just a section of it. And I'm just curious if these costs are reflective of that idea, or how that conversation went with the vendors or design engineering team.
I can speak from what has been submitted with our application. So basically, with the application, we submitted concept plans and estimated cost. As long as we stick with the main items that we've applied for, whether you want certain door on this side or not, they're not picky about it. As long as we stick with the scope of work of the project, then we should be okay. But nothing is set in stone. Things can be changed, and I believe the next step, once we get approved for the grant application, I think our next step will be to meet with engineers and architects to develop the appropriate design.
Okay, gotcha. One thing that I'm asked all the time as one Kraft Hockeyville co-chair as well as board president of the West Lorne Minor Hockey, is there a place that people can go and look at the confirmed plans publicly? If there's not, then that I think is fine. I just want to provide them with some sort of expectation or an answer when asked that.
I don't see why concept plans can be disclosed to the public.
Okay.
Those are not final plans, and I think the public have the right to know what we're planning on doing. just even for feedback. I think it would be great to hear back from the public, the people that have not been involved, perhaps for additional ideas. And absolutely, we can develop some kind of concept plans and post them at the arena. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think people are like, coming off of the high of winning Craft Hockeyville, and the question is like, and now what? And when is it going to be done? And it would be great as, a spokesperson in different perspectives to just have that, answer for them. I know we had like the plans at or the proposed plans and the 4 different options, and people were able to give feedback at the community rally, which was fantastic. But just, yeah, I think it would be great to kind of, post them somewhere so people kind of know, yeah, the wheels are still moving and they're still turning, and strides are being made, and put a positive spin on this grant and all the work that's being done, and create some excitement for the renovations in the future.
Absolutely.
I have a quick question, and I guess I'm like Bill, kind of pleasantly surprised at the costs that are here. What kind of contingencies do we have built into that plan? Like finances, is it a 10% contingency, 20%, or is there anything in there?
Through the chair, I think it was part of our application process, and this contingency number was input. It was calculated in the application process, so we had no control over it. It was quite high. I believe it was at 30%. Adam, do you recall what that number was? I can check, but it was included in our application process. It was at around 30% rate.
That's good. I guess the other thing, so if we go ahead with this as proposed and we get the grant, will we wipe out all our reserves we have now? Because I did the math, and unless I missed something, it looks like we still had a bit left. But I guess that's my question: is that wipe all reserves to zero?
That's correct. There will be no reserves once the construction is completed. And therefore, we're going to have to develop some kind of plan for the next 10 years, how we're, there's going to be needs at the arena. And instead of being reactive, we have to be proactive. When you have funds in reserve, applying for grants is so much easier because you already have the portion that has to be covered by the municipality. There's not too many grants that come out that cover 100% of the entire construction cost or replacement cost. There's always, there has to be a municipal contribution, and therefore it is, I suggest that once the construction is over, we start moving, the $50,000 that we started for the transfer to reserves to cover the cost of dehumidification system. I think this should be annual transfer to reserves that the board should approve. So, down the road, we are ready for any projects that can come up.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jim.
Just going back to Jessica's discussion in regards to the public being aware of what is taking place, to be transparent. Would we run the fear of possibly all these ideas, everybody has a different idea, and throwing it back to everybody and discussing, what about this, what about that? And then get the engineers involved and change this? Is it going to drag it out that there may be some major changes or minimal changes? What's your thoughts on that?
Mr. Chair, what I would suggest to disclosing the concept plans of course, any ideas from the public are welcome. However, public needs to understand that, sometimes there is a reason, like the way things have been designed one way is, because there is reason behind it. I believe that, the concept plans that we currently have, they have been reviewed with the skating club as well as with minor hockey. And I think the groups have been satisfied with what we proposed in our application process. I'm not sure if it would be a good idea to have a public meeting. I don't want to communication with the public. We have to push for the communication with the public. However, I would not suggest public meeting. This is the reason why we have this board is, so the decision can be made the right decision can be made. And, the clubs that are part of our arena board have that active communication with their clubs. So, whatever was brought forward and incorporated into our concept plans reflect that communication.
Yes, I'm not suggesting a public meeting. I'm just wondering if the public's going to see these drawings and come up with different ideas and then try to pass it on to different people, to the municipality, so on and so forth, then get back to the drawing board again, but definitely not a public meeting. I would not suggest a public meeting myself as far as to sit down and go through everything. You're right. We've worked together on this, and I think we're at the final stretch now.
Go ahead, Jess. Do you have something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna echo what Meg just said. Like, I think there is a need to be transparent with the public, but I think it's in the way that you position it, and that it's important that everyone that's sitting at this table here gets on board with that messaging. I think if you wanted to turn off the comments, let's say if it was, a social media post or anything like that, and have a mechanism where feedback can be collected, you just have to set people's expectation that, we're listening, but it all has to work within the budget and, the walls and, all of those things. And I think people will understand. But I think there is value in, me as West Elgin and the skating club that we're all sitting at this table. And I think there is a little bit of the public is as a third group that should have their say, but know that we might be missing something, right? I don't know, and there might be some really great ideas, and I think taking people's feedback is important, but setting the expectation that it is just feedback and it is just your thoughts.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
The drawing that was submitted to with the application, there was slight changes made due to the size that was allowed for the 2 dressing rooms. Last minute, we did make a couple alterations to the actual floor plan, more so to incorporate the size of the existing dressing rooms for the next 2 dressing rooms to be equal. As designers, they have a set bench square footage that they require, or that's not necessarily required, but they spec out that they need to go further out front with the dressing room. So then we made the office closer to the south side of the building, not necessarily in the front of the building. But there is drawings that we did submit for that. And I thought it came together quite well last minute that we could submit to the grant application. So there has been a slight tweak in that stuff, but what we proposed or they proposed to us, I thought was a nice design.
Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, and through the chair, thank you, Jess, and thank you, Adam, for that. I think at the end of the day, we just want to ensure that the community continues to feel connected and involved in this process. And structural changes notwithstanding, because those things cost significant dollars and delay things. I'm wondering about the possibility of creating an advisory committee in the community to help us with the less tangible aspect of this renovation. So, you know, we're going to want certain design colors. We're going to want certain photos on walls, certain parts of the history of the arena. Perhaps there's an opportunity for us to engage the community to help us plan out what our aesthetic in our arena is going to look like. Because I know I've had lots of conversations with lots of people about ensuring that the history and the story of this arena continues to live on the walls. And perhaps that might be a good way to ensure that the community is continuing to feel engaged in this entire process.
I don't know if we want to form another committee. I guess I'm a bit concerned that keeping that mandate simple. So I think if we could allow them to have input, that's fine. And I think we keep on going, just keep them aware of where we are. I just don't see the advantage of having another subcommittee. It just gets too many people involved. Sometimes it makes the process more cumbersome, in my opinion, but that's just mine. Go ahead, Jess.
I think that's through the chair. Thank you, and thanks, Dan, Bill, for those thoughts. My thoughts are a little on par with Ken that another committee sometimes is cumbersome, but maybe the concept of having the community involved in some way, I think, is a good one. And you know, aesthetics or you know, having a say in what goes on the walls and preserving that history, I think is something that could be thought through, or maybe some ideas be put on the table. But another committee does seem cumbersome, but that's just me.
Go ahead, Jim.
Is it possible to have these drawings at a particular location and identify to the public that they could actually go and view these drawings and then have a say about it, just to keep the transparency as far as drawings and layout of the building?
Through the chair, so you would like to, because I think the drawings that we have are the concept plans that we've submitted with the application process. There is also a way of converting these plans into more eye-appealing design, you know, in color. So perhaps we could come up with something like this, phone an engineering firm, request cost estimates. So I think if we present what we have, this may create a little bit of confusion to the public. I don't know. This is just a suggestion, or just try, you know, with what we have, and then see what we have for feedback from the public.
I guess my thought was if we could get something and put it up, the arena is the best place. That's where the users are this time of year. So they'll have an opportunity to see it. At least they know we're working on it. And I think that's maybe all we need is a And if we have to get a different one that's more eye appealing from the engineer, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's good, and maybe we should put some of a kind of a time frame in what we're going to plan to do it, and that would at least keep people informed. I don't know if we need to go much beyond that, but that's my thought.
Mr. Chair, that's kind of what I was thinking, central location, which is perfect at the arena, where people could actually look at it and keep in mind that we are progressing and should satisfy their curiosity.
Go ahead, Jess.
Through the chair, thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what I was. I think that's a fabulous idea to keep it at the arena. Maybe you could have like a little feedback box or a comment box or something like that, so that people do feel that they have an opportunity to voice anything. But I think at a very minimum, that's great. I love that idea.
I don't think we need a motion or anything, just kind of direction from the board to staff. Go ahead, Magna.
Just one more thing, just to provide better communication to the public. I was wondering if the board would be open of purchasing a screen that we could install in the warm room, and perhaps, keep up with the updates instead of, putting a paper copy on the bulletin board and make sure that the information is up to date. Somehow, with now that with the technology that we have, we could update, the progress of the project regularly. Everything can be done in color. The cost of the screen, we don't need anything big, but I'm thinking between $300 and $500. That screen could be installed in the warm room and, and regularly updated. Would this be something that the staff could look into it with the board's approval?
My personal opinion is I think that's a good idea. It doesn't get stagnant that way. I think if everybody's supportive, I think we should go ahead and look at that.
I'm in favor of the screen. If you just have paper on the wall, people's going to rub it and touch it and rip it and all the rest of it. And, yeah.
Go ahead, Jess.
I think that's a great idea. I'm all for less paper and waste and printing and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, totally on board. I will say, once you put a screen in there, you're going to get users asking if they can use it. So just be prepared for that question. When it comes to like events or, whatever, that's something that you probably should prepare for.
Need a policy for that probably, but not a bad idea either.
Yeah, I know I'm already thinking of ways that we can use it. So
anything else? Well, it's thank Magna for the budget preparation. It's nice to take that long-term look at where we're going with capital. I think that's something we've all never done enough of. So I'm glad we're getting some capital contributions built in for our reserves as we go down the road. So I guess if there's no other questions, I'll need a mover and a seconder that both the operating budget for 2025 and the capital budget for the next 10 years, I guess it's projection, a capital projection, I guess, for the next 10 years. If that's all right, I need a mover and a seconder.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Yeah. All in favor?
Yes.
Carried.
Through the chair, before we move on, I just want to thank to the board for your contribution, for your help with the application process for the arena renovations. We had such a short period of time to complete this application and submit it. I just want you to know that along with the application, there was 20 supporting documents that have been submitted. And, you know, most of them came from you. You were feeding me and our finance staff with the information that for the construction process of the arena. But thanks to you, and I want to thank you because you know, there was a tremendous amount of work. The application itself was 20 pages long. And again, you know, with the amount of work that we have done in such a short period of time, I want to thank you. Thank you all for your support and patience with us as well.
We appreciate that, but we also, having filled out some of those grant applications over the years, I realized that they don't happen overnight. There's a lot of work has to go into them, and I appreciate this time and energy you did. So good. The next is new business, skating club update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Skating club update. Everything's running smooth, and want to thank the staff for the excellent support and help doing things. And we're just basically plugging away, and bottom line is nothing to report.
If there's no questions for Jim, we'll move on and let Jess give the minor hockey report.
Yep. So we're sort of in the same boat now that the season has kicked off. We're kind of in, you know, the first part of the season, which is going very, very well. Our tournament is coming up on the weekend of November 16th. And so thank you to Adam and the staff for, you know, working with us on the schedule and getting everything ready for that. We've got an overwhelming response in our U9 division, as well as a good response in our U11 local league, as well as our U11 rep division. So it should be a really exciting weekend for us. So we're pretty excited. And one thing, I do have a request for approval. I did, you know, touch base with Adam, and he had said bring this to the board. Is that similar to previous years? We are looking to have a food truck provide food to participants and people who are waiting in between games and that kind of stuff. In previous years, it's been the Optimus Club. They're not able to do it this year, so there is another provider that is being confirmed. And so I guess the only question we have, for the board is it okay for them to use the counter space in the concession area to take the orders? Nothing will be prepared or a call at the same time. Nothing will be used, in terms of requirements inside, just the counter space. Everything will happen outside in the food truck. So that's one question we have about that. Or do you have any questions about that?
Any questions for Jess?
Suggestion, people in the room.
Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very comfortable with that as long as there's proof of liability insurance from the food vendor.
Yep, that's not a problem. Absolutely. I assume that would be a requirement. So we'll get that rolling and get everything that you need. It's 2 million is the minimum requirement? Usually.
Yes.
Used to be one.
Jen was shaking her head, yes.
One question.
Sorry, say that again.
One question, Jess. Is this a all weekend thing with the food truck, or is it just Friday and Saturday?
Let me confirm the hours and get back to you. I would imagine it's just Friday and Saturday.
Any other questions for Jess? You got anything else to report, Jessica?
Yes. Um, as we were going through the budget, the line items of, repairs, we've noticed a lot of the hooks that are in the dressing room are broken. And I just want to bring that forward. If there's any, I know a lot of the repairs, and as you mentioned, Meg, that would happen with the renovation. But if we do, a lot of teams do use those to hang all the jerseys up, and there are quite a few that are broken. So just wondering if that could be on the short-term fix list.
Absolutely. I just need to be made aware of it. I'm not in the dressing rooms on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Fair enough. And then I do have two more things. I've been asked to bring forward on behalf of, West Thorn minor hockey. And I know that this is something that likely cannot be changed or rectified or anything. However, I would like the board to be aware that the sponsor signage that was installed in the arena has left a little bit of a negative taste in some of the user in some of our members' mouths. Specifically, the lawyer ad from Ilderton, who there was a very decent and somewhat serious rivalry last year with this team that wasn't a friendly one, I will say. And then his ad was allowed to be up there with his red hat, which was the OMHA championship hat in the picture. I'm not asking for the municipality to vet every single sponsor, but just am bringing that forward.
Go ahead, Adam.
Yes, this individual reached out to me back in April and asked about advertising. Nothing came of it until Ed Doherty dropped off the sign. He proceeded to pay his fee for advertising, and the sign was hung. I'm under the impression that it's a business, just like any other business that's advertised in the arena. He went out of his way to put a portrait of himself after winning OMHA championships. Good for him, I guess. I don't. That sign was moved from the original location that it was put up, just because I have been told that certain individuals may vandalize that sign. So it's been moved further down the hallway. But I also heard that he was in the building this past weekend and taking portraits of himself with the sign. So not sure where else that lies. So
yeah, it is an interesting subject or topic to be talking about. But I think moving it was definitely a good move versus it being right above dressing room number 1, which is our home team's typical dressing room. But I'm with you. I don't expect you to vet every single sponsor. And it is a business decision, and we do profit from or benefit from the revenue that comes in to the arena. But yeah, I'm sure you heard several people. I know I was bombarded with messages, so I'm sure you were too as well, Adam.
All people in the world, I guess. Anyways, we'll leave it at that. Anything else, Jess?
Yeah, so I just want to bring up one thing that I'd like to put on the agenda, and I know we've talked about this before, but get an idea or a sense of what the timeline might be. If we can relook at the user policy in terms of how ice time is guaranteed to groups. repeat groups over, groups that are outside of our community. I don't think it's a secret that, Westland Minor Hockey specifically will be looking for additional ice. We've been, going through this every single year as our organization grows, and that's, going to potentially cut into some other groups that have been using the arena. I'm not talking about skating club or any of our local groups. It's more the outside groups that I want to maybe look at that policy.
Adam, I don't know if you wanted to talk to that, but I mean, I guess doesn't hurt to have a look at it, but I think we've worked very hard to try to get that arena used as much as we can, and sometimes there is some tough decisions that need to be made and trying to keep everyone happy, but I guess it doesn't hurt to have a look at policies occasionally just to make sure they're right.
Yeah, if we're looking to prioritize local over users that are outside of our taxpayer base, then yes, I believe there needs to be something adjusted in the ice user policy, or the seasonal ice user policy, because as it sits right now, they have just as much opportunity at that ice as our locals. So if the board chooses to change that to prioritize our locals over outside groups, then yes, I agree that it needs to be changed so that I'm not the bad guy when I say to them that they're not going to get that ice time that they've had for the last 4 years. So
That's not something we have to do right tomorrow or anything. It's something we can put on the back burner when we have some spare time. So I guess that we can do that. Is there anything else, Jess? Is that it? Nope.
Nope, that's everything. And I can work with Adam on putting something together, putting our thoughts forward in terms of that policy. But yeah, I just wanted to bring it up after, the season started and to put it on the radar.
Thank you. Staff operations update.
I'm a lot like the skating club. No news is good news kind of thing. We've made repairs to the heater in the warm room, so it's up and running, and a solid 20 degrees. So people should be happy. The Zamboni advertising, Lena's got her out to lunch ad on the side of the Zamboni. I'm not sure if she's made the payments or not, but part-time staff has been fully trained and worked their first shift solo last weekend, so that's good. We have purchased a blade changing assistant, which is just falling into equipment purchase for this year. It's a health and safety kind of thing to change the Zamboni blade. Zamboni will be coming out the end of the month to train us on that. And it's a device that holds the blade and the bolts in place, not requiring staff to reach underneath the Zamboni and be anywhere near the sharp blade itself. So that's an item that should have been purchased years ago, but hot water heater in the concession has been removed and returned to Reliance. We've paid long enough without using it, so that, and we have a scheduled emissions test for the Zamboni tomorrow. It's should be a yearly requirement. I believe it's been a few years since we last did it, so what comes of that is yet to be seen.
Any questions for Adam?
Mr. Adam, thank you. In regards to skate sharpening, is that an employee of the municipality that does that for the skate sharpening?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just curious on that. I didn't know whether it's a contract or not by an
No.
outsider. Okay,
No, it's all staff. Most staff, other than the new part-time staff, hasn't been trained on that, but all full-time staff have.
thank you.
Any other questions for Adam? Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one quick question for Adam. How is the new Zamboni operator working out?
She's doing quite well. We've spent quite a bit of time training her, so users can just be patient. She may miss a few spots, but it's a learning curve. So she'll be in full force the next couple weekends. So
Great. I have no doubt with you training her, she'll be perfect.
Any other questions for Adam? If not, thank everyone. We got a lot accomplished, I think, at this meeting. I guess I just in thought maybe if the board members could see a copy of those amended plans, maybe send those out to us just so we have them. If nothing worse than people asking us questions and we don't know what's really been changed. So no hurry whenever the staff have time to do that. If there's anything else we need to talk about while we're here, doesn't look like it. So I guess I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Jessica.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, seconded by Jim. All in favor? Thanks, everyone.